Hey, this is Tom, and I got an amazing show for you today. A lot to talk about. Peloton, some crazy developments coming out from that company. Believe it or not, we have some news coming out from the ARM and Nvidia deal. It's falling apart, and I'm going to kind of dissect what the hell went on there and what's next, because development is quite interesting. Also, gas prices, energy prices going through the roof. Ukraine and Russia actually might be cooling down as I predicted from 2 weeks ago. We're going to talk about that. Google actually lowering back after the initial high post earnings, and also some crazy story from China where a US Olympian competed for China, won gold. We absolutely have to talk about that story. That is insane. All that and more coming up in just a second. So let's start with the story from China before everything else, because this thing literally just blew my mind. Her name is Eileen Gu. She's 18 years old from San Francisco, an American girl competing for China in the Winter Olympics, winning gold. What just happened? Now, don't get me wrong. Everybody can choose where they can compete, and I have literally zero issues with that. But usually you see that kind of case happen when somebody can't make it to the US Olympic team because they're not good enough and they'll compete somewhere else. I mean, what would be the reason if you're a gold medalist not to compete under the US flag? I mean, if she was born in China and she feels more connected to China, whatever. But it's a US athlete, probably one of the best in the world, just won gold, born and raised in the US, father American, mother Chinese, and she chooses voluntarily, even though she's the best at what she does, to compete for China. Now, it's not like she had to go for China because the US wouldn't take her. Why would she do a crazy move like this? Well, I'll explain to you my own theory. And again, this is just my opinion, which might be inaccurate, might be wrong, might be ramblings of a madman. Do your own research, but here's my theory on why this was done. I believe the answer for this is greed, plain and simple. So this lady, this young lady, chose to be a superstar in China. This is almost kind of a North Korean aspect. She knew she was going to be utilized and used by the Chinese Communist Party to showcase how much China is better than the US. Look, even their best athlete, a complete American, chose to compete for our flag. She knew she's going to be used and utilized by the Chinese Communist Party to showcase their own bullshit propaganda. She chose voluntarily to represent a country that supports human rights violations. She did this for one reason and one reason only: greed. She knew that sweet, sweet money from sponsorships and the Chinese government money is going to kick in. She's going to be a superstar in China, and all this money just made her feel so goddamn patriotic about China. She's a real patriot, isn't she? Now, I think it's a shady ass move, and I'll explain why. If this was a US athlete, I mean, winning gold at Winter Olympics is nice. It's good. She probably gets a cereal commercial and a few mentions, maybe like 100,000 followers, 200,000 followers on Twitter. It's nice. She gets a few, morning shows, but none of what just went on yesterday. Like, this lady literally collapsed the Chinese Twitter. The service collapsed from overload. There's too many people. These mother lovers from China aren't even using her real name. They've created this Chinese version of her name, Gu Ailing, which is not her real name, and it's been promoted everywhere. Every show, every aspect of what can be done with Chinese sponsorship money is now flowing right into her lap. So when I see somebody selling out their own country to go compete under the flag of an enemy of my own country just for greed and money because she knows she's going to be a bigger superstar over there, that shit ain't cool. There's a certain limit where I say, well, this is not about the money anymore. So you voluntarily went to compete for a country you were not born in, even though you could have competed for the US and you would have been very successful at it, just to get that money from a country that's literally a rival of the US and is a known violator of human rights. And you know what? If she's so passionate about China, if she feels more connected to China, might as well move there. I mean, why would you stay in this god-awful place that is the US, right? Just move to China. Relocate yourself. I don't know. I'm not telling her to move, and I'm not telling her she can't stay in the US. All I'm saying is that if somebody is that passionate about another country, go live there. But then again, what do I know? I'm Russian, so it's even worse than China. Now, let's talk about Peloton for a change. Now, Peloton went through a little roller coaster ride. Now, I was wrong about Peloton. I was very bullish about it through the pandemic. I admit it. I completely screwed up. But ever since then, I've been nothing but, a hater. So a few days ago, we started hearing potential rumblings about an acquisition. Amazon, Apple, Nike. And when the rumors hit, Peloton flew up by 40%. Literally 40%. Because of a rumor of a potential acquisition. I mean, this is 2022. Nothing makes sense to me anymore. It's time to bring back pets.com, I guess. This is as bad as it gets. Now, the rumors pushed the stock so high that kind of ironically, they pretty much jeopardize or eliminate the potential of a deal. The whole reason this deal was about to happen is because Peloton has become so cheap that either Nike, Amazon, or Apple are basically saying, well, at this price, we'll just pick it up from the ground. We'll see what we can do with it. I mean, it's so goddamn cheap, we'll just take it. But these retail investors have pushed the stock price so high, over $10 billion, that they just closed that gap. They've made it too expensive for that deal again. So kind of ironically, the same people who were betting on the deal basically kind of killed it. Now, what might happen is that now Peloton might actually slow back down and kind of go back to that $8 billion region. And in that market cap, I do think a deal is possible. I think it's a piece of turd and I was wrong about it. But then again, Apple might buy it. If they can sell a phone for $1,500, they can definitely sell a bike with an iPad. In fact, it actually fits with the whole ecosystem Apple got going on with fitness and healthcare and the whole hardware stuff they got going on. Maybe. We'll see what happens. But meanwhile, while we were sleeping, some exciting stuff happened. So first of all, Peloton's CEO is stepping down. They're firing 20% of their employees. And they got a new CEO. His name is Barry McCarthy. He's he's a banker. He used to be the CFO of a bunch of companies, and he actually took companies to a direct listing before. So he's more of an investment banker and a money guy. This kind of hiring actually signals one thing. It tells the market, hey, Barry McCarthy's there to make this deal happen. He's going to have to make Peloton nice and pretty for the deal to make sense. We'll see if he can pull it off. Meanwhile, they just gave guidance for next year, and it's actually down from 4.5, 4.7, all the way to 3.6, 3.7 billion. So they're actually getting worse. So I don't know. At this point, at $10 billion or $9.5 billion, whatever they're trading right now, it doesn't seem likely. Once it goes down towards the $8 billion area, we might actually see a deal. Let's see what happens. And now let's talk about NVIDIA and ARM, the Romans that could have been and yet never was. Both companies come out today and give their own obituaries why this deal ain't happening. Essentially, they got blocked by every regulator on the planet because this is going to be literally a monopoly. If you're not familiar with what ARM is, I'm sure you heard of NVIDIA. ARM is pretty much a monopoly. They're as good as TSMC or ASML in that business. Essentially, TSMC are quasi-monopolistic in production. ASML, a Dutch company, which is a quasi-monopoly in lithographic machines, essentially the machines that build the machines. And we got ARM basically designing all these chips. All of the designs, which pretty much you have on your desk, is theirs. So at this point, we have a competitor of all of these other companies who are buying these designs or licensing the designs from ARM, trying to buy ARM. Now, when you have the situation, the risk for competition actually becomes greater. So what happened is that basically NVIDIA said, hey, listen, I know all you mother lovers are buying or licensing your designs from ARM like we do, and it's pretty much the gold standard. So we'll buy it, but we want F with your business. So we promise, pretty please, we promise, Scout's honor, we're not going to F with your business. And essentially, the regulator said, give us a break, mother lovers. I mean, we're not going to let you get away with buying the only supplier of designs because we can't control what you do after you promise really nice. And obviously, the temptation to F with the business of your competitors through ARM is just going to be too big. We don't trust you. And in fact, why should we? There's no reason. So that whole deal fell apart. Now, I do want to talk briefly about what happened with Google. Google spiked, if you remember, on earnings, and now they brought almost everything back down. So this is down to the 2700s. I'm going to tell you right now, and I want to be very clear about this. This is my third biggest position, and this is a $3,500 stock. Mark my words, Google is a $3,500 stock. This is the perfect value and growth stock combined. If Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan had a baby, and that baby would have grown up to be an NBA player, that would have been Google. It's a value company with massive growth that resembles startup level growth, 40% per year, great margins, monopolistic power, insane amount of R&D, the smartest engineers. It literally has no flaws. So if you were considering Google and now it's back down a few percentage points to the 2700s, I just suggest you doing research. I'm obviously not going to recommend you any stocks. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, just the ramblings of a madman, my own opinion. The only thing I can tell you is that I urge you to research about Google. Read for yourself, look at the fundamentals, look at the price action, and tell me what you think in the comments below. And now let's talk about what's going on with Russia and the Ukraine. It seems that we have very interesting developments. So the French president, Macaronio, whatever his name is, I don't know, Spaghettio. So Spaghettio went to fly and meet with the Russian Eminem lookalike Vladimir Putin, and basically came back from the meeting saying, well, Putin said he's not going to basically do anything about it. It's just a flex. Essentially what I've been claiming for the past 2 weeks. Putin was essentially sending a message through Spaghettio to let everybody know in the West, hey, I just need something, give me a ladder to climb back down. Give me something here. I don't want to invade this country, which I don't need. I don't want to be responsible for feeding all these people and keeping the lights on. I literally don't need this. I'm happy with you just giving me something. Give me a ladder to climb down. Now, at this point, if war happens, it's going to be one of the biggest cluster freaks of all time because it's so easily avoidable. Just give this man a cracker. Give him something. Let him climb down and get this thing over with, because otherwise we're going to keep seeing this price increases in energy. This is getting out of control. BP just reported the best earnings since like 8 years in the decades. Energy prices are pushing up as it is because of inflation. This conflict ain't happening. This needs to end right now because a lot of people will suffer by increased prices of energy. And you definitely don't want to be at the hands of the people who control the prices. I mean, at this point, if this keeps going on, you have to go to the cartel, let's call them that way, and basically ask, hey, dudes, can you increase supply a little bit to lower the prices and, reduce your own revenues and gross margins? Please, please, please. You know what the answer is going to be. I mean, those guys are, probably not going to do that, but we'll see what happens. As always, a huge shout out to the channel members and the patrons. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have, just do me a favor, give a hug to your loved one. Don't click nothing, don't smash nothing, don't buy nothing, but sign up for our Patreon, which is $5 per month. We literally have nothing there besides, just being part of our community, participate in the Zoom calls, have a laugh twice a week. That's the only thing I can offer to you. And because the rest of my content is free. See you tomorrow.